everybody.
Hello.
Those who don't know me, my name is Xander. I am the Godhi for the Svinfylkin. And today's lecture is on the significance of rite and ritual and practice in modern heathen tradition. So, I'll begin with identifying the three types of heathenry, or actually faith belief views. There are three widely accepted views. There are other views, but mostly the three accepted are exoteric, esoteric, and personal gnosis. Spelled gnosis, but pronounced gnosis. Let's start with the exoteric. Exoteric literally means views accepted by the general public. So, an example, what the outside views of us or our practices are, what they read in the comic books, the movie Thor, the show Vikings. That's exoteric views of what we do and how we practice our belief. That's not really how it is, but that's the general accepted view in the public eye. Also, there is esoteric. That's more of the inner circle view. What I mean by inner circle is men and women like you and I, who actually study the faith, walk the path, and have that actual knowledge of the path our ancestors walked before the corruption and ruin and fall the wayside of our faith. Now, esoteric also is what you've learned, what you've seen, what you've experienced, your views and how you put it all together. And then there's personal gnosis. Personal gnosis is a combination of what you've seen other people do, what you've heard other people do, what you've read about, what you've learned about, and what you've personally experienced. The word gnosis literally means knowledge of the spirit, of the knowledge of the mystery, spiritual mystery. So, if you put your personal aspect into it, now it's your personal knowledge of the spiritual mystery. So now you're beginning to look at the whole aspect of how your personal faith, how your personal belief, how you walk in your daily journey as heathens, Asashuar, Odinists, or however you want to label yourself, the ways of our ancestors, how you view yourself, how you conduct yourself. That is your personal gnosis, and that's what we're going to mostly expand on today, because we have our own personal gnosis. We have our own paths. We've learned our own ways. We've studied our own ways. So, let me just bring something together here. With exoteric, esoteric, and personal gnosis, we have to be mindful of all three, for reasons being is because we interact with people every day in the outside world. They have, for lack of a better term, superstitions of us because of the stuff they see on TV, or because of the stuff they read in the newspapers. So, with that understanding, be mindful of how you conduct yourself, because you are a direct representative of your faith. With that being said, I'm going to delve deeper into the rite, ritual, and practice part of this lecture. Rite, let's start off with rite. Rite literally means ceremony, spiritual ceremony, spiritual act. It can be conducted by yourself. It's mostly conducted by yourself when you do your own personal rite. It can be done in a group, but mostly done by yourself because you have a certain way of doing it. It's what you put your own personal twist to it. It's what you do when you do it's what you do and how you do it in your own personal way. One thing I want to tell everybody is this lecture is interactive. If you have something to say or ask, please do so. All I ask is that you let me finish my thought, because it might answer the question you have. So, with ritual, it's also a ceremony or a spiritual ceremony act, but to a prescribed order. For instance, we have ritual because we do it in the way of heathen, asatru, Odinism. So our rituals are done as a group. Can be done individually, but then it delves into the part of rite. Personal rite, personal spirit, personal travel. Ritual, we're all conducting ritual because we interchange our beliefs. We cross literally our spiritual web. So the ritual we conduct together brings us to a higher realm on so many different levels, which I'll talk about going on to this lesson. And then practice. Practice actually puts everything you've learned, heard, and experienced into a daily process. What you do every day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. How you wake up in the morning and how you conduct your day, to your interaction with fellow heathens and non-heathens. That is your practice, how you conduct yourself on a daily basis. So, and also about practice is once you begin it, it literally follows you through the rest of your life. From the moment you discover your path to the moment you draw your last breath, you literally live your practice, live your faith, live your essence in heathenism, in Odinism, in asatru. It is who we are, and what we do here is also called practice. We form a community, and that is also how we practice. So, my question is, in what way do we observe our path in heathenism? So, the way we observe our path in heathenism, personal studies, interactions with fellow heathens, rite, ritual, and practice. Now, when we do ritual, maybe in a circle, amongst friends, kin, there's a certain way we have to approach this. Each one of us has our own path, and each one of us has our own thought and view on how we're supposed to do it. But one thing is widely accepted. There is a point and a purpose to each ritual we conduct. Each ritual we conduct has to have meaning. So, when we enter a circle, we don't just enter, it's like, hey, I'm here. Hi, everybody. Okay, goodbye. That's not the point. I've noticed a lot of men and women walk into a circle is because they follow the next person near them, and they do as the next person near them. It's not what we're about. We have to question everything. We have to personally grow in this. So, when we enter circle, we need to center ourselves into the purpose, why we are there. We are there to honor a deity, a spirit, an ancestor. We are there to honor ourselves, our name, the name we've been given by our ancestors, and the name that we're going to pass on to our descendants. We have to expand on that. So when you enter into circle, have that in your mind. Have that purpose. So when you hammer sign yourself and you step into that circle and you join the community in that circle, and there's a Godhi conducting that ritual. The Godhi is leading the procession in the ritual, but we are there individually for our own purposes, for our own reasons. So be mindful of that. Which brings me to the next point. The purpose of that ritual. When we do a blow, or blow-tar, in the blow we invite our deity. Now, I personally believe that when you walk into a circle and you do ritual, trim your nails, brush your teeth, and your hair. And that's not just for looks. Yeah, you look better that way, but imagine you're going to visit somebody and you're all disheveled. You got dirt under your nails. You have yuck mouth. And it's the deity that comes down comes to the circle and joins you. You are literally spitting in their face because you know what? I'm not going to take the time to take care of myself to welcome you. But think about it. You've trimmed your nails, brushed your teeth, did your hair, you got your clothes done. Looking your best. It shows the deity that you've actually taken the time to give them that respect, to welcome them into your circle, into your, for lack of a better term, your essence. You're saying, hi, I'm here. I want to talk to you. I want to communicate with you. I want to join you and have our paths cross. I want us, all of us, to say hello to you. If you're doing it in an unmindful way, what kind of communication or connection can you have with that deity or that spirit? So, another reason why I talk about cutting your nails, okay, you can clean your nails and that's fine, but there's a ship called Naglfar. It ferries the dead, it ferries the giants to Ragnarok, helmed by Loki. Now, that ship is built on the nails of dead men. Granted, we're all alive. But when we enter circle, and the circle is closed and the walls are erected, we are in a spiritual world. The dead are in a spiritual world. So we're not literally losing our nails, but on the higher plane, we're adding to Naglfar, to ferry those giants to Ragnarok. Why speed that up? You need to slow that down. So, if you cut your nails, it's symbolic. Bottom line is symbolic. But how much weight does it have when you enter circle and you're doing your blow and you're doing your hails and you feel a chill down your spine because now you're just connected to a deity that actually recognizes your effort that you made, put forth. I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for myself. When I enter circle with purpose and intention. Yeah, I mean, there's everybody hail this deity and hail that deity, and everybody wants to be the loudest or the sound the most eloquent. But in the raw, in the bottom, in the very, very core of purpose to communicate with your deity is respect and honor. The deity that taken their time to join you, you gotta give them that respect. And once you give them that respect, it's a gift exchange. They give you that gift either of knowledge, which comes to you in very many various ways. Gives you a gift in your life. You can be walking in a path and you can be just down in the dumps and all of a sudden somebody says something or does something and your whole life turns around because you're in the right place at the wrong time. That's not chance. That's actually guided. One, the Nornir weave your web. Frigga spins that thread that the Nornir used to weave your web. There's purpose in all life. There's purpose in all spirituality. Bring that into practice. Another thing is when you honor your ancestors and the spirits and deities in circle. Have you ever lost a loved one that you wish you could say one last thing, one more thing, or hear that loved one say one more thing to you? When you're in circle and you're in the right mind frame and you're in that zone, when everybody else in the circle just disappears and you're just communicating and you hear that voice in the back of your head that sounds like someone you knew, that's your actual communication. That's your connection in that circle. Because in that circle is a safe zone for that spirit or ancestor or deity. Look, everybody has their own way of doing things. Everybody wants to be the Godhi or the best in the ritual. Fine, be that best. But when you do it with an intent to honor and respect. Use your knowledge that you've gained. Use the knowledge that when you're talking to one deity, to another, I might know something that you don't know. You might know something that I don't know. But when we have a conversation, we just both learn each other's knowledge. We are men and women in our cause that did what they did years ago. They afforded us the ability to be here today in this camp, this community. And they do things, they did things with purpose. They did things with reason. Let's also honor that reason. Because you know what? At the end of the day, what they did allowed us to be here. We need to do something to allow our descendants to be here as well. So they can carry on our message to each other. And when you enter circle, and you have that communication, and when I raise a horn in circle, I don't just raise a horn and say, hail this deity or hail that deity. I introduce that deity. There's a reason for that. Back in the day when our ancestors spoke of people, they didn't say, hey, this is John Doe. Say hello. No, they didn't do that. They introduced people to each other. Say, this is the man that came to my house and we had meals together, and he's a great man because he ferried the ship and slayer of 40 men in war, and his name is this. There's a purpose for that. Because you're bringing purpose to this individual. In essence, you're bringing his spirit to light. And when we enter circle and we are doing lotus or ritual, even when we're doing our own personal rite, we have to bear in mind that when you're communicating with the deity and you raise your horn, or when you call upon a deity, don't call it, hey deity, come join us here. Say, I ask you to join us. For instance, if you're calling Thor. You don't say, Thor, join us, or hail Thor. You would say, I raise this horn to my red-bearded brother, defender of men and gods alike, son of Jord and Odin, father to Magni and Modi. Hail. You're bringing purpose. And that is actually the point. I don't know everybody's experience here in ritual. I don't know everybody's experience in conducting ritual. But I can tell you this. Next time you enter circle, if you keep that in mind, keep your spirit in mind, keep your purpose in mind, and make a connection not only physically but mentally and spiritually, you will walk away from that ritual not only energized, but if you just if you just drank a liter of coffee, double shot of espresso. It's just the way it is. I'd like to hear your thoughts. If anybody has a question or opinion, let's discuss it. Go ahead.
Not really a question, but I think it was really cool that you pay homage to the fact of why they do things like kennings, why things were done in poetic speech, why you name a man's deeds, because that harkens back to the foundational principle of we are our deeds.
Correct.
We are not what we say, we are not what we promise, we're our deeds. And that was, I love that you spent so much time just focusing on that and saying, hey, I'm not just going to say, hey, this is Xander. This is Xander who has done this, who has accomplished this, who is this. And I think that it puts things in context.
It's like in the Hallowing, men die, cattle die, but one thing lives on forever, man's deeds. I could be killed tomorrow, and I can go wherever or to whoever, whatever deity chooses me. But one thing, I hope that my deeds will carry on for long enough for generations to come to say. I remember about 10 years ago I met this guy Xander, and he said this and did this, and you know what, at the end of the day, what are people going to say to you? Not like, oh, he dresses funny, or he drives an ugly car. No, what are people going to talk, what are people going to say about you as an individual, as a man, as a woman, as a heathen? Are you a pillar in your community, or a scab on and just causing a scar in life? That's what it is.
I think that's why a lot of us are in this particular community, because this particular community, this particular group of people, are people that are doing things.
Absolutely.
I know that's what drew me to it, because I've been around heathens for 25 years, and way too many of them sit in their mom's basement eating Funyuns and Mountain Dew and typing on a fucking computer.
No, people are killers.
I can look at almost every single person in this room and make a list of things that I know that they have personally done and put effort, blood, sweat, and tears into to make something happen for our faith, for our Yafrain as a faith.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I know that's why I'm here, and I think you guys are awesome for what it's worth. And I love the fact that that's a major focal of your class, is that you're calling attention to that aspect of heathenry, which is the one that's pretty much lost in modern society outside of groups like this.
In the tribe of the Wolfings, which I founded back in the 70s, it's the oldest standing group of Asatrors in North America without a break.
There's a lot of breaks.
One of the criteria that we set for membership in our group was that the person be a doer, a maker, and a shaper. And it is to those makers and shapers that I always pay tribute to and honor. Because the people that are in the ring doing something, those are the people that count. I mean, early on, we used to have people come out to a gathering like this. They didn't bring a sleeping bag. They didn't bring a fork, knife, and spoon. We had to provide them with everything. So in time, we began to get rid of some of the dead wood and to concentrate our efforts with those who were the doers, the makers, and the shapers. Because they're the people that count. They're the people that are in the ring. They're in the fight. You know, they're striving. So you always want to get behind them and help row the boat with them, you know. Join their crew.
As you're saying, that people are their deeds. When we remember folk, when we tell tales or tell somebody of someone else, we don't just use a name. I can very easily say Xander, I can say Joe, I can say Jason. The name itself is empty without the deeds that they've done. When I say someone's name, I say so-and-so, who's of this group, who's done this, who's organized that, who's led this, who's done this ritual. When I speak of like Stephen McNally, for example, who's not here, who will be here during winter nights, we don't just say his name. We all know what he's accomplished, but we still throw it out there. The author of this, the leader of the AFA, who's done this ritual, who's done this, who's gone off and done that. When we mention Robert Taylor's name.
Well, I'll tell you, when you bring doers, makers, and shapers into a group, the leader's job is very little. You don't have to do much. Everybody knows what to do next, and they get to their task. And you know, I never had to direct anybody, tell them what to do, because everybody rolled their sleeves up and got right in there and did something worthy. You know, and the best I could do was to support them and get behind them. You know.
But just to emphasize this point, though, it's not just the name; it's the actions behind it.
Mm-hmm. Nothing like self-starters. My criteria for a leader is somebody who leads, not who tells other people necessarily what to do, but forges ahead into areas that nobody else has done before, and thereby shows the way, cuts the pathway, you know, blazes the trail, so to speak. So that's what a real leader is, and everybody else looks at that leader and they follow in that route. They see he's doing something worthy, you know. On rituals, having done a lot of them, sometimes you have inexplicable occurrences happen in rituals. And it further bolsters your own faith and belief in the presence of the High Ones. Once we were out on a solstice out in the Birchwood up in Wisconsin, our group, and we're doing a ritual in a circle and passing a horn, and one of the deities that we were invoking was Godhi, the goddess of the skis, the northern version of the huntress, like Diana. And as I raised the horn to her, a deer broke right out of the forest and came right into the center, in the midst of us, and spun in the air, off the ground, and shot off towards the sun. We were all just, wow, you know, I mean, that was like one of those inexplicables. Another time we were going to be doing a Thor blot, and it was up on a platform of the Hof that I was building, but we hadn't closed it in yet. And Mike Velgard Murray was there from the AA, and he and I were both doing the ritual up there. And we were going to do it in ale, because it was a feast in honey ale to Thor, the working man's god, and the yeoman's god. So we had the horn on the table, and it was filled, and somebody turned around, and the horn fell over and spilled all over the altar. And all of us like looked at that, and we saw that as a bad portent, that the horn tipped over. You know, it had like antler legs that were holding it up, and it fell over and splashed. And everybody just froze for a moment at that moment. 10 minutes later, somebody comes up from my house, this was on my farm, to let Velgard know and his wife that his wife's father, who was a truck driver, had just gone off a cliff in the Rockies and was dead. And I mean, wow, I mean, that was like a message. They had to turn around and drive their motor home all the way back to Payson, Arizona from northern Wisconsin. They had just gotten there that day. And they put her on an airplane to get back, but I mean, that was like a sign there, you know. And I could think of many other, you know, instances where the spirit was there. It was either telling us something or it was bolstering our rights. You know, and the thing that people always say, where are the gods in my life or something? And I try to point out, if you work at a computer all day in Manhattan, and you ride the subway home, and you microwave your dinner, and you sit down with a beer and watch the TV all evening, or play on your computer games, and then you go through this again tomorrow, subway, the gods don't take no interest in you. You're not worthy of their time or attention. It's the people, it's like the old saying, there's no atheists in foxholes. Because when the bullets are whizzing around your ears, you'll get religion really quick. You'll begin to think there's a higher source just by the fact that you survived and the man next to you didn't. So, you know, if you lead an active life and you're doing something, that's when the gods are going to come into your life. The higher forces of spirit are going to enter in. They'll be there for you in desperation, in times of perdition, whatever. They'll be there to help you in some way. You know, you won't even have to turn to them, and they'll be there for you. If they know that you're one of their people, and that you're somebody who's rolling the dice with life.
Absolutely. But you know what? Even then, though, it's not the gods to be there to get you out of a hole.
I mean, they would get bored with a lot of people.
Oh, sure.
Some people live such mundane existences. What God could conceivably take any interest in what they do? You know what I mean?
What I've
They
noticed a
never
lot,
risk anything.
what I've noticed a lot is, like you said, people waiting around for the gods to show a sign, or even when they're active for the gods to show us. The gods don't have to show themselves to you. We're not of consequence to them.
Earn your seat at the table.
Exactly. We have to prove ourselves to the gods, not the other way around.
Yeah, the gods know who their people are.
You know, they know who we are. They know what we're about. But you're also supposed to be self-reliant. You're supposed to persevere. You're supposed to do for yourself. Through those trials and tribulations, you prove yourself worthy.
Exactly.
And then the gods will present themselves to you. It's not the other way
Yeah,
around.
they'll be at your side, shoulder to shoulder.
That's right. It's not the other way around.
No.
And they don't like Funyuns or Mountain Dew.
Well, it's like Robert said earlier, leaders don't have to lead. They just, if they have a good crew, the crew just roll up their sleeves and they know what to do.
But leaders do have to be of the caliber that will attract people that will get things done.
Right, and our gods, our deities are just that. Because
And it's looking for those people,
exactly,
the self-generating people.
If you go to your bed at night, get down on your knees and pray, please God help me, please give me this, please give me that, please give me this. Whatever, see you later. But if you get up every morning and do something and literally break your back and blood, sweat, and tears to get something done, you don't have to ask for help. They see your effort and they're going to give you their blessing. They're not going to give you your blessings as millions and millions of dollars because that's nonsense.
It's probably what you don't need.
Right, but they will give you what you do need. A fruitful bounty. For instance, if you're a farmer, you'll get your crop.
The harvest.
If you're a butcher, you'll get your cattle. If you're a metal worker, you'll get that cut just right. You weld it just right, and you get the right customer to buy your product. But the thing is, if you sit there and hope and pray, that's all you're going to do is hope and pray. If you're going to get up and do something, guess what? Not only are you going to accomplish something, you're going to gain a sense of pride. And that is worth more than any amount you can ever earn. Because once you find pride within yourself, you start to walk a little different, talk a little different, act a little different, behave a little different.
And then the mantle of honor
brings you
descends
different
on you.
Correct.
That's a secondary outcome of the pride.
Absolutely. Once you have that honor given to you, it's hard to lose because you've earned that honor. And bring that all together and what we just spoke about, when you enter circle with that pride, with that pep in your step, when you step into that circle, you know, yeah, you know, I deserve to be here. I've earned my place in this spot right here, whatever ward you stand on, whether it be north, east, south, west, or all the other center wards. Wherever you stand in that circle, you've earned that place. You deserve that place because you've done something to get to that place.
I would say one other thing about whoever is ritualizing or is a Godhi or priest, that the primary there is the ability to invoke spirit into matter and matter into spirit.
Absolutely.
To bring it down. That's what the mediator is there for. That's a simple definition of what a priest really is this medium between the world of spirit and the world of matter.
Right.
I've seen like the Odinist Rite has a very good ritual that they do, where everyone who comes there brings soil or rocks or some substance from the land they live on. And this is all put into a big container, a bowl, like a cauldron, and all mixed together, and the ritual is done over this dead matter. But this is matter that has come from your backyard or some propitious place. All the meat that isn't used in the ritual, rather than pouring it out on the ground, is poured into the soil and rocks. And that was a rather moving rite that showed the spirit invoking matter and matter invoking spirit. Another one that we always used to do in the Eastern Alliance was the blessing of steel, where people could bring their guns, their knives, their swords, and we went around the circle with mead poured on and invoking Tyr's blessing upon their weapon steel, and they dedicated these knives and these guns and everything to the defense of the folk and family and so forth. And that was always a pretty moving ritual when we did that. And it requires two people, one pouring the mead, the other one doing the invocation. And we had a sword that was blessed, and then we used that sword, and every subsequent knife, sword, and gun that had gone through that blessing took on the ability to do it to other things, you know, in a descendant sort of way, you know. Each sword was like descended from other swords, you know. You can find the lineage of it running back to the primary, you know. And that's how you set up, begin tradition, you know, within our time and place where tradition has been lost. We have to reestablish traditions and some sort of way to hallow that what we're doing and what we use in our rites and everything else, you know. So that's another way, you know, that ritual serves a purpose. In the larger sense, ritual is a symbol. The entire thing of ritual becomes a symbol in itself, outside of its human elements and everything else on a larger plane. It's a symbol. A primal symbol at that.
Bringing everything to what we just spoke about, one thing I have to add upon is the Ve. The Ve is your altar, your centerpiece of that circle. Everybody has elaborate ones, basic ones. You can pretty much put anything on there that connects you to your ritual. But the most important thing you have to put on that altar, on that Ve, on that ritual stone or plate, is yourself. You are the one who opens it. You are the one who consecrates it, makes it holy. So that Ve needs to be cleansed, charged, protected. I like to call upon Heimdall because he is the ever-century. He guards Bifrost Bridge. He warns the gods of oncoming danger. So why not ask him to guard our Ve, our altar? So many men and women do it differently. That's what I do. After I ask Heimdall to guard the bay, then I do conduct my ritual. I call the deity. After I call the deity, I welcome them. We all welcome them in the circle, and then we continue to do the ritual. How you do ritual, the process itself, there's no standard, there's no written way of doing it. There's an understanding of it, there's a way of doing it, everybody does it differently, and nobody's wrong, and everybody's right. And what I mean by everybody's right is because heathenry, also true.
That's a matter of format, basically.
Correct. I call it a religion of faith of nature, which means it's natural. So if it feels natural to you, why not do it?
There are also a number of elements in life which contain both spirit and matter. Fire is one of them.
Yes.
It is matter, but it isn't just matter, it's spirit. Because it's alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Water is another. Mead, because of the process of the making of the honey,
Correct.
becomes a thing of spirit and matter. Blood, of course, is another. Every time I got a tattoo, I dedicated that blood that poured from my arm to a god or a goddess. So, and I had an experience getting one on my chest, which was quite painful, where I had it outlined and half blacked in, and then I had to take a 5-hour break while the guy had some cash customers coming, and he was a friend of mine. And then I came back with this festering tattoo. You know, it gets pretty raw by that time, and he finished it up, and I mean, it was grueling. And I had dedicated that to Freya, and it was on a equinox that I was getting it done. And I wanted to grip the barber chair. I mean, it was getting intense. It was late at night. I was tired. Pain is basically a drainer of energy, you know, long-term pain. And I guess endorphins started pouring into my head, you know, the natural opiates in our body when we're under duress and pain. And I had a flash, like a psychedelic flash, of the goddess holding her hands out to me with blood dripping off of her fingertips, like she was meeting me halfway, and she was shedding the blood for me as I was for her. You know, that was a kind of astounding experience. But I made a ritual even out of an act of getting tattoos. You know, each time I did it on a particular date and dedicated it to a particular god or goddess. So, because blood is the factor involved there, which partakes of spirit and matter both. So there's a lot of different ways that you can ritualize, you know, in a very personal way, which that would be, or in a larger group setting and scenario and format and everything. Absolutely. I always invoked Berkana whenever I went into a sauna. And Steve McNellen had written a poem to Berkana, and I would recite that every time I went into my sauna. I would recite that, you know, the birch goddess. So there's like all sorts of ways that you can ritualize and make most of your actions in life bear upon a spiritual sense, you know what I mean? And it makes life that much more full and deeper and more meaningful in doing that, you know. You're living on more than one level. You know, you're living on a spiritual level as well as just a material level. And that's an important thing to be doing. I still do the Hail Suna in the morning, the bright lamp of Odin, eye of Odin, and so forth. And I still do that at sunrise when I'm up at sunrise, you know, and stuff like that. But just things I got used to doing for like almost 50 years now, you know.
You know, ironically, coincidentally, you and I get up at 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning every morning. It's still dark. We start driving. We drive, when we leave the house, it's still dark. About an hour, hour and a half, because we commute 2.5 hours each way.
Sun is starting to come up.
Starts coming up, and as soon as it comes up, it's bright in my face right before I put on my sunglasses. First thing that comes out of my mouth is, greetings, Suna, and a hearty hail to you. It's the first thing that comes out of my mouth as soon as I see the sun every single morning. On the way home, when we're coming back, the sun is setting. I say, greetings, Suna. Thank you for your day of shining.
Wish you a good journey.
I wish you farewell. I'll see you tomorrow. Every single day. that's why I smile when you said when you do the Sunnah greeting. I was like, I do that every morning. So
And it keeps you locked in.
Oh, absolutely.
To what's important.
And at 4 o'clock in the morning when we leave, I'm still a little drowsy, I'm sleeping, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I gotta catch myself. But ironically, again, not ironically, but the funny thing is, whenever I say good morning, when I say greetings to Sunnah, I don't sleep anymore. I'm good. I'm like, thanks, man.
And this is nothing imposed upon you or anything. This is a personal
it's
choice to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I do it because, you know what? I recognize the fact that she's there every day. And also, I know the story of it with day and night and how Odin put them up there. I mean, I've educated myself with that story, so I know the significance of it.
You got the reference point to it all.
Absolutely. But that all leads back to esoteric knowledge.
And it broadens and deepens your own experience of daily life.
Which leads you into
You're
personal
more
analysis.
alive.
Yeah.
than the
How
rest
you
of the
perceive it,
world
how
out
you
there.
conduct yourself, how you carry yourself every day, how you practice traditional healing. So, you and I do that. That's two of us. Nick does it. Does it. Everybody does it. And now it's not only, I personally believe that if each and one of us recognize a deity and say greetings to that deity or honor that deity, that strengthens that deity. So the more people, men, women, honor a particular deity, that deity gets stronger. Because, absolutely, because when we were getting pounded upon by the conversion in Europe, our deity sort of gotten put to the wayside.
Started fading
away. And something foreign started getting forcefully stuck down our throat. We were taken from wolves that worked in a pack to turning to sheep led to the slaughter. I don't know about anybody here, but I am not sheep.
No honor in that.
No honor in being sheep, because there's no honor in slaughter.
But that also neatly ties into the gift exchange. We're giving the gods theirs, and that's why we're getting ours.
But by
It's a two-way.
Exactly, and the
reciprocal.
difference in the mentality is, in most monotheistic faiths, it's gimme, 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 save me, save me, save me, and all that crap. And then you get into something like heathenry, which forces you to be, as you said, self-reliant, powerful, putting things out, to be doing
the 9
things.
noble virtues? We have something called 9 noble virtues.
I have to tell you, I think they're nifty, but I don't buy in all the way of it as a heathen thing. It's just a nice thing that's a part of the belief structure. But you're right. At the end of the day,
And you know what? Ironically, you said it's a gift exchange.
it is. Everything is a gift exchange.
I pull a rune every day. Every single morning when I wake up, I have a rune of the day, and that's what I go through every day. That's the rune that I'm going to concentrate on today. This morning when I woke up and I pulled the rune, guess what rune I pulled? Take a wild guess.
Bunyo.
No, it was yesterday.
It's a good guess, though.
I pulled a gable today. Funny enough.
Sounds dirty.
What?
It sounds dirty. I pulled a game up.
Yes.
Is that anything like a dirty Sanchez?
Oh my
No.
gosh, wait, they're filming this, please.
No, but honestly, I pulled the gable. I could have pulled any other rune. There's 24 runes. I could have pulled any rune, but I pulled gable, gift exchange. Honestly, what we're doing here is a gift exchange. We're exchanging knowledge.
Absolutely.
Robert Taylor, who's been a heathen longer than I can ever even.
Longer than I've been
So I have
alive.
to say so.
Yeah, longer than I've been alive, pretty much. His knowledge in this thing we call community is an immense gift that he just shared with us. This conversation we're all having here, we're exchanging gifts. We are actually living the rune gable right now. In ritual, when we use runes also pertain to ritual, because each rune is tied into a deity. Each deity is tied into a presence, and that presence is what we experience throughout life. So, first of all, I want to thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge.
Thank you.
I
It
appreciate.
was a
Thank you.
well done presentation.
Thank you. And anytime you want to share your knowledge, please do not hesitate. I thank you. I just want to say one last thing. Fellow heathens, please, please, when you step in circle, when you step in the circle of your life, be mindful of the ancestors before you, be mindful of you who are today, and remember that what you do today directly reflects the descendants that are going to come after you. Thank you.
Thank you.